as a new pope. And then he chose, as we know, the name Francis. His name, his birth name was Bergoglio. Bergoglio as the name of this immigrant from Italy, therefore an Italian name that he had picked from, they had given him from childhood. So when he was elected the Pope, and he was the 266th Pope, 266 popes we have had, then he chose this name of Francis after Francis of Assisi, just giving an indication of what he wanted to be as a pope in his mission as a pope. So that's briefly about his life from 1936 now to 2025.
Thank you very much, Father. It's a summarized biography. Pope Francis has not simply existed because even stones exist, but he has lived 88 solid years. And you are talking about he was ordained a priest as a religious, a Jesuit, a member of the Jesuits. Now the aspect of religious life comes into play. On the other hand, you talked about migrant parents. Is that the reason why Pope Francis had a soft spot for immigrants and the likes, because his father was an immigrant from Italy to, I don't know, you can give us a glimpse of that.
I guess he had, he had an experience of what it meant. I've read several books about him, and as a child of an immigrant, he had had a real taste of what it means to move from your country and live and go to another country. But by character, this Pope Francis, that's what he is. And when you look at what they are writing about him, as I said, we don't have to repeat all this that's going around different media. But they are highlighting among his strong points is a strength, or one of his strengths, the gift of humility, which comes out very, very, very strongly, emphasizing God's mercy, so therefore the aspect of mercy, his concern for the poor and immigrants, as we see, but also for the environment, and we know he eventually wrote about the environment and our planet. And then his commitment to ecumenism and interreligious dialogue. All these things show that he was I think it's not only because he was a priest or because he was an immigrant, but as a convinced Christian, these are things that marked his life right from childhood. And thus, he led as a pope, he led the church really, with these really as his main points, as his main strong points that he was pushing for.
Thank you very much, Father. Now, let's go through your issues. Here is Francis, I don't know, a young man, not a teenager, but a young man who embraces religious life. In one way or another, I've read about his call, his vocation, down towards religious life. And you talked about Jesuits. I thought that every priest and every religious sister is preaching Jesus, therefore he's a Jesuit. Now you're talking about Jesuit. Well, Sister Lydia, you can assist us. What do we really, that animal called Jesuit? That are you a Jesuit also? I don't know. You are a religious.
Yes.
So now we are seeing Pope Francis as a religious. Who is a religious? So that you slowly show us how, maybe we shall see how he has impacted religious life. I thought that Father Tusingire is also religious, but now you define for us religious. Thank you.
Yeah, religious life is a life of a consecrated person.
Consecrated.
And in this case, Pope Francis belonged to the Institute of the Society of Jesus, and that is the right name, but we commonly know them as the Jesuits. So consecrated persons profess three evangelical counsels: the vow of poverty, the vow of chastity, and the vow of obedience. In one way or the other, Pope Francis chose the name Francis because St. Francis of Assisi was a religious man too. And from the beginning, Pope Francis chose that name because he really loved to be humble. And throughout the 12 years that he served the Catholic Church, he showed us from the very beginning that humility was going to be his way. And he knew very well that the saint he wanted to emulate loved the poor and served Jesus through the poor and creation. And this explains why Pope Francis was very particular about the poor, the immigrants, the refugees, and the care for our common home, the Mother Nature, the environment. Pope Francis indeed lived up to the name he chose, and he always did what he did with a lot of humility up to the last minute of his death. He was not only a pope, a religious for the religious people, but he was a pope for the people. He left us with the 4 powerful encyclicals. Lumen Fide, that was on 29th June 2013 when he was just beginning his mission. And that document is on faith. Pope Francis gives us the image of Martha in the first paragraph of that document. Martha weeping for our brother Lazarus. And it works well with us. We have just celebrated Easter. And we read this gospel. And Pope Francis is telling us that those who believe will see the light that illumines their entire journey. For it comes from the risen Christ, the morning star which never sets. Indeed, he has lived up to that, and surprisingly, he died on Easter Monday because he believed.
Now, sister, just a second. Now we are looking at Pope Francis. We are looking at Pope Francis, the pastor. We are looking at Pope Francis, the religious. We are looking at Pope Francis, I would fear to say, the philanthropist and someone who has a feel for the people. Now, directly to the religious, having had the background of a religious as a Jesuit, how has he impacted on the religious in the church? Just a personal aspect, the way you see it. Because I am made to understand at least he must have written a number of letters and exhortations concerning religious life. Yeah. But during his pontificate, how has it directly, you now as a Secretary General, how do you feel that truly this is a direct impact from Francis to we, the religious? Before even I have the intervention of the others.
Yeah, from 2013 to this year,
yes,
2025, the Jubilee year, Pope Francis has been giving statements for the World Day of Consecrated Life that we always celebrate on the 2nd of February. And each year he would give us a theme. I will mention some of them. One of them that he gave us was, consecrated life or religious life is born in the church. It has to grow in the church. It has to bear fruits within the church and for the greater glory of God.
Born in the church, grows in the church, is nurtured in the church,
exactly,
bears fruits in the church, and at the end of the day does what?
For the greater glory of God.
And that's what you are feeling towards the
service of the people.
Service of the people.
Yes.
So it goes outside the church and it serves the entire society.
When a tree bears fruits, the fruits are eaten by people. The fruit, and actually he has another saying that rivers do not drink its waters, the trees make fruits and they don't take the fruit by themselves. In other words, all the giftedness that we have are to be shared by the people of God.
So how was that now?
Actually,
practicality.
Yes.
How
even to the consecrated person, Pope Francis urged all the consecrated men and women to become bearers of light. Be the light of the world today. by being faithful witnesses of the evangelical counsels. And in his apostolic letter to the consecrated men and women in 2024, when we celebrated the year of consecrated life, Pope Francis urged all religious to draw close to God and grow closer even to the people of God, to go out on mission and to rejoice with the people of God, to share in the difficulties of the people of God and to support them. Rather, he said, we should smell the sheep. Go to the ferry.
You should smell the sheep.
Yes. Attend to the poor of the poor. To whatever degree, we should try to create room for the people of God in our lives.
Thank you very much. Father, we'll come back to you. Pope Francis, the pastor. You see, now we are talking about some of the key aspects that we have known about Pope Francis. Humility. Humility, does it mean to mingle yourself in on the source? What do we define by humility? Because tendency has been, Pope Francis left the papal apartments and opted for the
Santa Marta, which was a hotel actually.
Yeah, but when you look even in the papal apartments, there was nothing so luxurious. Because some people get the impression that maybe those papal apartments were gold and silver, but it's simple whatever. So what is exactly that definition of humility, so that we see him as someone who's coming into our lives? And now I want Francis to be lived in my life as a laity, as a religious, and as a priest.
You know, Pope Francis, I could say, was really, he was a humility personified. He was humility itself. If you saw him, I was fortunate to stay with him in the same house. One time I went to Rome for a meeting, and I was given a privilege of staying in the same house with him, Santa Marta, Casa Santa Marta, which should be like the hotel of the cardinals and people who go to Rome, and I stayed there. One thing that struck me, he was mixing with everyone in that house, and you know, at first I didn't know that he was living in this very place. When I arrived in the night, and then I was taking the dining for supper, for dinner alone. I almost sat in his seat. I mean, it was like any other place. So then, and somehow, I don't know what the Spirit told me, I sat nearby on another table. But in the morning, when I went for breakfast, and as I was eating, I saw somebody dressed in white coming in, and I knew, this is the Pope. I was surprised. I didn't know that this was the place where he eats from, because there were other bishops and some cardinals, and I was there and a few other priests, and he came in.
There was no hour of gratitude?
No, nothing. As a matter of fact, then I was excited. I didn't eat very well, I must say. As I was coming out from the dining, because I was running for a meeting, he came following me, and he was going out to his apartment, and I went with him. He was staying near where I was sleeping. I mean, he was like anyone else who was staying in that place. But you could notice that he was not pretending. That's what he was. He felt simple. He wanted to live a simple life, and that's why he went to stay there. And as he said, he wanted to live in this house because he wanted to be near the people. Yeah. As I just said, to smell, you must smell the smell of the sheep. He wanted to be with the people, near them, close to them. And after he became Pope, the first place he went to visit after he had become a Pope was that place of the refugees where they arrived in Italy. And he wanted to experience firsthand what Lampedusa, yes. All the things that he was doing were real of that kind of humility. He washed the feet of the apostles, I mean on Holy Thursday, the first time he was washing the feet of the prisoners, men and women, Muslims, Catholics, and everyone there. But he was doing it with a natural touch. It's not that he was pretending to impress anyone, but that was him. He lived a very simple life, even already in his country, but even when he became Pope, he didn't change. He remained a humble person.
Something special we recall when you talked about that. When he was calling for peace in Africa, and more specifically Sudan, and he called in the leaders of Sudan to the Vatican, and Pope Francis knelt down and kissed the feet of the Sudanese president and all those warring, and everybody said, wow,
It was very
Well, that's
touching,
the Francis we
very
had.
touching, yeah.
I wish even our politicians could just even if it's 10% of that, it would mean a lot in serving the people. Back to the impact of Francis to the religious life. We are going to get one of the sisters from the Somini, the religious who are here. Mary Reparatrix, Immaculate Heart of Mary, you are going to give us, sister, you'll be coming here forth, and give us, within just a few minutes, what did it mean for Francis to the religious life of the Mary Reparatrix. Thank you. We are going to have that and have that feel because really this is the moment for Pope Francis. This is the moment for Pope Francis. And unless we learn we get those ideas right now when the thing is still hot, we may not know exactly what is what. Ladies and gentlemen, our viewers, we have got several institutes of the religious within Mother Church. So they are a reflection of the beauty of the church, each with its own charism. And that's why, much as there are different charisms, they are all serving the one holy apostolic church. So, sister, you are from the Institute of Immaculate Heart of Mary, Reparatrix, Gogonia sisters, isn't it?
Yes.
Great. What is, just in short, what did Pope Francis mean to you as a religious and possibly to your congregational institute? Thank you, sister.
Thank you, sir. I'm Sister Lilian Nsawat-Sasile from the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary Reparatrix Gogonia. And I personally have been inspired by the Pope's humility and simplicity. In his life as a religious, he emphasized on the embracing of the cross. And you cannot embrace the cross when you're not humble. And in that aspect, I learned from him. When he left Rome, when he was elected a pope, he refused to live in the papal apartments and decided to live in the guest house, as they have already said. So that aspect inspires me more. And even the moving, he has been moving, kissing each and everyone, be it who, be it the young, the youth, it has also inspired me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you for that contribution. Now, wow, it's so much. Pope Francis wrote an apostolic exhortation entitled Christus Vivit, and specifically addressed it to the young persons of the world, young people. Christus Vivit, Christ is alive, and young people, be alive. Father Fred, you are responsible for the Apostolate at the Episcopal. What does this particular exhortation speak to you? And soon after, we shall get one of the religious men here available, possibly from the Brothers of St. Charles Ruangaba Nakalori, and he will also be giving us his aspect of what impact Pope Francis has had to their religious. Thank you, Father.
Well, for us, as you know, as you just mentioned, I happen to be the National Director of Lay Apostolate in the Bishops' Conference here at Uganda Catholic Secretariat. And this particular encyclical that you have referred to is one of the documents we are focusing on under the youth office. Maybe for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, Lay Apostolate, there are people think that Lay Apostolate is just movements and associations. Lay Apostolate has many here at the Bishops' Conference. We have different offices that are in charge of different aspects of the laity. And one of them is for children, there's one for the youth, and for families, and for councils of the laity, all these things to do with the laity. But for the youth, the particular theme that we have been moving with the last couple of years is on this encyclical,
Christus Vivit.
Christus Vivit. So that the youth are trying to see how to live the life of Christ as the model proposed by the Pope. And so for us it's very important, and maybe also to remind the youth all over the country, the Catholic youth, that this remains our theme and our focus as the youth in this country.
Thank you very much, Father. Incidentally, tomorrow we are having the national prayers for the requiem, for the repose of Pope Francis, which are going to take place at Lubaga Cathedral. And at 6 p.m. after the Mass, the youth, several of them gathered in Kampala and thereabout, are going to remain in Lubaga, and they're going to reflect for about 3-4 hours, specifically on Pope Francis and what he means to the youth. So we welcome you, we welcome everybody. Now, brother, we are coming to your side, religious men. What does it mean to live religious life as a man today and now in relationship to the mission of Pope Francis? Yes, brother. Brothers from the, you introduce him, his name and the institute. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, viewers. I'm Brother Wambale Moses from the Institute of Anakaroli Brothers, Chitere de Mother House, Masaka Diocese. So, to be a religious man, it's all about taking the evangelical vows, that's poverty, obedience, and chastity. And in this aspect, we have learned more about Pope Francis, since he has been a religious from the Institute of the Jesuits. Really, he embraced the virtues of religious life, and we, the consecrated persons, we have missed him, and we continue to pray for his peaceful repose. Pope Francis has been an icon to the environment. In his encyclical Laudato Si, which he wrote in 2015, May 24th, he called upon the faithful to protect the nature by planting trees and waste disposals. And this has impacted the lives of the faithful. Indeed, the nature will miss Pope Francis, and his teachings will resonate with our lives forever. Rest in peace, Pope Francis, till we meet.
Thank you very much, brother. Yeah, everybody has an aspect concerning Pope Francis. We are soon seeing one religious from the Sacred Heart Institute. He'll be giving us her opinions and how Pope Francis has impacted on us. Now, Father, you see, soon you are going to be telling us about what next, what happens after the death of a pope, and what next. Why? Because for the past 25 years, these two generations have never seen a dead pope, in the strictest sense of the word. They have seen Benedict, but he died after his resignation. Pope John Paul died 20 years ago. Even if someone was 5 years old, he was not understanding what exactly was taking place. Now it's 25 years plus. So we shall be examining that part concerning what happens. But before you'll be giving us, just as Sister from the Sacred Heart comes in, to give us exactly how do we move with Pope Francis, and what it means to have the Sacred Heart. I don't know whether there's an institute under the protection of St. Joseph, because Pope Francis brought now the issue of a sleeping Joseph, and then he said, how do we have sleeping saints? Are we dead serious? But this was the Pope anyway. So the Sacred Heart, she's gonna give us what it means in relationship to is the religious life. And I want to use this particular moment to be a source of vocations, because whichever religious I'm bringing here comes from a different institute. It's not just a question of picking a cream, a red, a word. No. I have a feel that people should be really saying, worthy was the death of Pope Francis that I came to meet the Sacred Heart Sisters, the Banakaloli, the whatever. Thank you very much. So, Sister from Sacred Heart, your name and maybe the institute properly put, and give us, just in a summarized form, what Pope Francis meant to you. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Good evening, listeners, and everybody present. I am Sister Francesca Atiang. I belong to the Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We are based in Moyo. As a congregation, We work in Uganda and South Sudan. And it is on this point that I take Pope Francis as an example of peace, unity, hope. Because when he came on a pilgrimage to South Sudan, he was able to kiss the feet of the presidents, signifying humility. For that matter, it's my prayer and wish that the humility Pope Francis manifested will be remembered by me, by us as religious, and by the people of South Sudan, because that was a sign of being humble and promoting peace, hope, and unity among all races in the world. This we will surely miss Pope Francis.
Keyword is peace, hope,
Unity.
unity. And this year we are in pilgrims
Of
of hope. Wow, it's just rhyming well with the Jubilee. Thank you very much, sister, for your experience. Thank you for your experience. Pope Francis has indeed talked about war. He said, and I can quote him, 1, the world experienced the First World War in the 1914s. Then we experienced the Second World War, 1930s to the early 40s, 1940s. We have not had an open Third World War, but the world is slowly fighting the Third World War. And he said we're already in the Third World War. So when we hear these words of peace, it means a lot to us. Thank you very much, sister, for bringing out that aspect. And whenever I speak about war, it's not about a question of Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza, etc., etc. Even within our own continent, when Pope Francis came to Uganda, he said, I thank Uganda for welcoming the country that has welcomed the biggest number of migrants and refugees. Talked to Africa and said, Africa, can you stop these wars so that you don't force people to become refugees to other countries? Thank you very much, Pope Francis, for that message. So the aspect of peace has come out. And we are soon going to get sisters from Mother Mary, Mother of the Church, sister, so that he gives us equally what it means to have, what it means, Pope Francis, in their life. In the meantime, Father.
Yes.
Gender. Gender. Is it a question of ideology? Is it a question of ideology? Because every time you're hearing about gender, male, female, and Pope was saying, no against gender ideology. Well, how has Pope Francis practically shown us that gender is not the way the world would like to see it? Is it in leadership roles? We don't know. Practically, how has he shown it? Gender. Thank you, Father.
Well, I will just, maybe for lack of time, I will just highlight one aspect that we should not forget about this Pope. He was really for equality of man and woman. For him, men and women should be seen to be equal in practice. If you look at the appointments he has made, for example, in the Vatican, the Holy See, during his few years that has been in leadership, you will really admire how many female lay people and religious who have taken up positions of leadership in the Vatican. And not only that, but that's what he always taught. Man and woman are equal, but it's according to the scriptures, it's according to the teaching of the Catholic Church, that male and female, he created them all and we are all equal. And he did it in practice by appointing people, appointing the women to make sure that they have also equal share in leadership in the Catholic Church.
In fact, it was almost, for lack of a better word, an abomination. We had never seen a woman leading a full dicastery within the Vatican. And he was so clear. There's a difference between the ministerial and other roles. leadership is leadership. And currently, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the whatever of the governorate of the Vatican is a woman. You say, wow. Traditionally, for the past 1,600 years, that position has been always occupied by
men.
Men. Not only even men, but a cardinal. Now here is a full swing to the other opposite side. So, gender, ideology, is there anything like gender fights even among the religious that we also need our, I don't know, we stand to be corrected. It's a conversation. Yes, sister, you're most welcome. Your name and institute.
I'm Sister General Satimango.
Yes.
I belong to the Missionary Sisters of Mary Mother of the Church, founded in Lira, and currently I'm also serving in Lira as a diocesan accountant. Yeah, as a congregation, and also on my own behalf, the life of Pope Francis touched me a lot, or touched us a lot. And what we shall never forget him of is his concern for the poor and the refugees. You know, up there we have refugees, we have the poor, like in any other place. And this helps us also to, you know, to take care of them, to take care of the needy in general. And then another aspect which I admired so much from Pope Francis is his willingness to listen to the people of all walks of life, the disabled, the children, the religious, the priests, the bishops, even the Muslims, people of other denominations. He was ready to listen to them. For me, that is something I have to emulate from him, because listening is very important. When somebody wants to express himself or herself to you, you listen. It's very important for us as human beings. And also another thing which I admired from Pope Francis is this concern for the environment, environmental protection. We all experience the previous long drought. People suffered from heat, people drank water, people suffered, looked for where even the shades where they could shelter, they could not get. And as a matter of concern for us as missionary sisters of Mary Mother of the Church, we are also advocating for tree planting and also taking care of the polythene papers and those materials that cannot be digested easily by maybe water on the ground. And then another aspect which also attracted me so much, and I think I will never forget about it, is his willingness to handle sensitive and controversial issues, and also the reform in the Catholic Church governance. And I also want to say something about what I got from him. He said life is good when you are happy, but then it is even much better if you make others happy. This is a very good message for me, because now when I'm together with the people, maybe in my community or where I'm working, I feel my presence should make everyone there happy in the community and also in my place of work. Maybe the words I speak, the way I behave, and so on. When I'm there, I should make them happy. People should be happy with my presence.
Thank you very much, sister. Wow, it's great sharing. Now you have brought about the aspect of listening. And this particular series we hold, it is called UNCCLA Listens and Speaks. Can we do more listening and then we speak? Where did you derive this? We derived this from the Synod on Synodality. Now, Father, synodality, a brief of it, and thereafter I'll be able to invite sisters from the Holy Cross Sisters. Thank you very much. Synodality, listening.
Yes, well, that's a topic that deserves sufficient time, but I mean for the sake of this program tonight, is important to, just as sister just said, this sister from the Missionary Sisters of Mary Mother of the Church, she brought out a very good idea that we have to listen. But as I said, in practice, Pope was doing all this. Like he called this synod, you can see one of the motives to get us back to these fundamentals in the church, that we can listen to each other, we can be able to dialogue and be able to really discuss and move together. So that's the whole, I could say, the background of the synod in synodality. But that's what I think that's the legacy at the very end is living with us. that as a church we need to go together, to move together.
We need to
And
journey
dialogue,
together.
yeah, and journey
We need
together.
to dialogue. And
Yeah.
dialogue means that we are compromising our values, that in order to listen, therefore have to compromise? Does that
No,
mean
not
that-
necessarily, not necessarily, because if we, especially in the church, if we stand for the same values, often the problem comes from not listening to the other, and when we start fighting each other. But at times we are talking about the same thing, and we start as if we are opposing each other, yet we are trying to go to the same goal. So I think what the Pope is leaving with us, make sure we listen to the other people, and once we understand what the other one is saying, then we find that that's what we need to know and work on together.
Pope Francis is leaving us, I don't know, volumes to work upon. It is almost another Vatican Council 3. But, well, that said, we have Sister Margaret Kabasiza, and she's a religious from a particular institute. She's going to introduce himself better, and also his institute, and rather her institute. And maybe you give us something unique so far, which has not yet been said by the others, concerning Pope Francis, religious life impact, or generally the world. Thank you, sister.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Sister Margaret Kabasiza. I belong to the Congregation of Sisters of the Holy Cross, and our mother house is in the United States, and we are all over in the whole country. Holy Cross is a family. We have priests, brothers, and sisters. I'm here to share the good news about Pope Francis, what I, as Sister Margaret and the congregation, we have learned about him and what he has inspired us to do. Pope Francis, he wrote an encyclical called Joy of the Gospel, whereby he encouraged us to be joyful, be glad, and radiate light. As we sisters and Christians, we're encouraged to be joyful and spread the light to all humanity who are around us, especially the marginalized. The marginalized, we as Sisters of the Holy Cross, we work with survivors of human trafficking who are being rejected in their families. So those are one of the people whom we look at as their marginalized. And it's my prayer that we continue spreading the gospel and radiate the light to those people who are being rejected in their families, especially those who are being trafficked. Thank you so much, and I pray that may God grant the perfect peace to our Holiness Pope Francis.
Thank you very much, sister. Every religious who's coming here is bringing an aspect. Yes. Now here is human trafficking, modern slavery. Oh, wow, I don't know how best to put it. Now here is a congregation which has a charism concerning people in the peripherals. I knew that the Holy Cross sisters in Nairobi, they walk down there in that biggest slum in the world. True, false?
No, that's a different one. Sisters of the
Holy Cross.
Yes. But their counterpart, the
They are
Holy
their
Cross fathers were
But
right
now the
there.
key issue here is human trafficking, modern slavery of whatsoever form. Father, you are a pastor, and the pastor handles all these types of. Practically, have you got into direct contact with people of that nature who are going through such at times, trafficking, human trafficking, and others? I don't know. Yes.
Well, I just briefly want to tell you that in this country, in Uganda, on the national level, for the Catholic Church, I happen to be the chairman, the chairperson of the different institutes working against trafficking in persons or human trafficking. And the Holy Cross Sister, as she said, is one of the major partners we have for the having a place in Forpotro where they are best to receive and minister to these victims of trafficking. We have also the Diocese of Moroto. We have the John Paul II Peace and Justice Center here in Zambia, and we have Magale Foundation and several other groups. And of course, the Bishops' Conference, being here that I work for the Bishops' Conference, we unite all these groups, and every year we are able to celebrate the 8th of February, the feast day of St. Josephine Bakita, who was self-trafficked and now is a saint, the patron saint of those who have been trafficked. And then in September, around the 9th of September, we have the National Day of Prayer Against Trafficking in Persons. And because of this work I do, I've been in touch many times with those people who have been trafficked. And when we organize, for example, in September, around the 9th of September, when we have the National Day of Prayer, then we have some of those victims giving their testimonies. Very touching, I can tell you, really, listen to some of those testimonies, you can be very emotional. That people can be made slaves in these modern days we are in. They are bought like commodities and really used as slaves.
Human beings being bought as commodities.
Yeah, in this century, yes.
It's really sad.
Yeah, very.
And Pope Francis has been speaking the gospel according to the times. According to the times. Now, you're going to, people may be mistaking us that we may be having on religious women. And I'm going to have one brother from the Martin the Bwor brothers possibly also come and give us what it means for Pope Francis to our dear lives and to the charism of their own congregation or institute. As we are waiting for brother, these things are easier said than done. And one of the challenges I think Pope Francis is leading us is how to put these things into practice. Father, just in one sentence, how best can that be done?
You mean the issue of what he has left us as a legacy?
Word to practice.
Well, this is supposed to be the usual way we should do any aspect of our faith. But in his case, he also gave us the example that what he taught, he lived. So all we have to do as Christians, what we have learned from Pope Francis, we should make an effort to live it. Whatever good we learned from him, live according to what.
Because I have just hardly 6 minutes to go.
Yes,
Dip,
okay.
dip. But I'm going to handle everything.
Yes.
What spoke Francis to us,
Yes.
to your congregation, to your
Yes.
institute?
Thank you, the director. My name's Reverend Brother John from the Institute of St. Martin de Porres. We are based in Ngulu Diocese. First of all, we are all basing our minds on the passing of our hero and the icon of the church. For Francis is described as a supportive and a unifying figure whose commitment to peace he was. A humble person and a person who also brought interfaith dialogue in the different areas whereby the Catholic Church has been left with an enduring mark. May he rest in peace. And also in the whole world. He was also an extraordinary spiritual leader and a deeply respecting, loving, honest, kind, and a person, in other words, a virtuous person. Who in all, the world and the church at large will keep remembering our Father for all that he has been and he has done to the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Wow. Everything that this program was supposed to be, I think, supposed to be 24 hours so that we get to what Pope Francis is. Just in the few minutes I have, as we continue on, the church by nature is missionary. And many of us think that being missionary means somebody from outside Africa coming into Africa. Whereas the demand is, even Africa, as Pope St. Paul told us in 1969, Africa become missionaries to first of all to Africa,
Yes.
and then to others. We are going to have next Sister Mary Madri. He's going to give us what it means to be a missionary during the time of Pope Francis. I was about to say Pope St. Francis. I hope people will not say
canonized him.
now, the way they did it on Pope John Paul. But Sister Madri, she introduced the institute from which she comes, and she gave us in her summarized way what it means to live as a missionary in a foreign land, and the call by Pope Francis. Thereafter, we shall be able to see other missionaries. We shall be able to see the other missionaries of Jesus. Sister, thank you. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am Sister Mary Madri, belonging to the Sisters of St. Joseph of Taps. And we are missionaries. And when we see Pope Francis, especially for me, he was a great man. A man full of hope and courage, filled with God's love and compassion to the people. And then one statement that liked me the most is, he says, "Come out of your comfort zones and smell the sheep." So that inspires me a lot to go out as a missionary and then smell the sheep. Means entering into the lives of the people around, listening to them, understanding them, and then serving them. So that was the main purpose that I felt as a missionary. And he was a great man, loved God, and then he made all the religious to leave their comfort zones and to feel God's presence everywhere. So that was my experience.
Thank you, Sister. Now, you come from the Institute of St. Joseph of Taps. Key word is Joseph.
Yes.
And during the papers of Pope Francis, we managed to have a special year for St. Joseph.
Yes.
We heard about the sleeping Joseph, whom the Pope used to throw his problems, and the St. Joseph sleeps over them, and in the morning he has given him, and I think it's one of the Pope who has promoted in a very special way, St. Joseph.
Yes.
Up to the extent of assigning him a full year. What was the impact of that year of St. Joseph to your congregation, to your institute?
For us as an institution, we loved that because he was a silent man. Nobody was recognizing him. But when Pope Francis told about St. Joseph, we were so happy, and we started praying for all the people in the institute, vibrating that St. Joseph is a man who listens our prayers and who dreams and communicates to his son Jesus. And we too have felt many a times whatever we have prayed and we have received. There are so many problems we faced, but everything was handled very carefully by our St. Joseph, the patron of our saints.
The Joseph was way
yes.
of handling problems.
Yes.
Silently.
Silently.
Suffering silently or sweetly?
Sweetly.
But silently.
Yes.
Wow, I've loved that. Thank you very much, Sister, for that sharing. Yes. We are going to have Father Gilbert. He's also a member of the religious. And after that, we shall be able to make summaries of the major aspects concerning St. Joseph, rather Pope Francis. Pope Francis. Thank you very much. Father, we have talked about so many things. Peripheries, trafficking, the unknown, the whatever. One religious said the Pope did not fear to quote controversies. Controversies. He gets on headlong. And in one of the programs I've had this week, one of the journalists said, living under an unconventional Pope. Then I asked, is there a conventional Pope? Dear viewers, all I know is that God provides prophets according to the times. He provides prophets according to the times. He knows when to bring in a Jeremiah, an Isaiah, a Joshua, a Moses, and name it. Now this was not John Paul, this was not a Benedict, this was not a Paul, not neither Pius, but this was Francis. Our tendency is to compare one person against another. And that's why even you're having issues like conservative, traditional, liberal, but the church remains the church. These are terms that we are coining ourselves. Father, how would you rate this Pope who is making the water stir when you want things to move? What's your opinion?
I can briefly say he was the right Pope for the right time. This was the kind of Pope we needed at this time.
Are you trying to say that there can be a Pope for the wrong time?
Well, no. Well, as you said, we have had different popes for different times. Just like the scriptures show us different prophets for different times.
Yes.
And I think currently, at this moment in history of the church, Pope Francis was the kind of person we needed to steer the church the right way. So God gave us the right prophet, the right leader at this time, the kind we needed, to bring us back, for example, to humility, to service, to listening. He was the right one.
Pope Francis is quoted saying, the church is a hospital. These are Jesuits. Jesuits are very... No one, everybody was saying, the first Jesuit. So when controversy started in one or another, for one reason or another, they said, you see the Jesuit, we told you. But, ladies and gentlemen, and our dear viewers, it is always the Holy Spirit at work. Because I never anticipated the thought that truly the church is a hospital and should be able to handle cancers, wounds, those in coma. Even those in coma, you come to the church, it will waken up. After the wakening up, then it can tell you go in peace. So the church is indeed where we can get our vaccinations and everything. Father Gilbert, that's all I know about you. Maybe you shall know more about Gilbert XYZ, of which congregation, their charism, and what Pope Francis meant to your institute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am Father Gilbert Ogala. I belong to the Missionaries of Jesus, the Divine Master. I am a missionary priest. And I am so happy actually to say something about Pope Francis as a model for the religious, because he happened to be a religious Pope for that matter. I would like to say majorly my own experience of Pope Francis when he came to Uganda. I have read about Pope Francis, I have heard about Pope Francis, but I want to say what really touched my life when Pope Francis came to Uganda in 2015. By then I was still a young man, a seminarian in the second year of philosophy. And I happened to be in St. Mbaga's Major Seminary, and we were highly involved in the preparation for the visit of the Pope. When we were in Namugongo Mata Shrine, Pope Francis had a very deep message, both for the religious and for the catechists, and for the people at large. But his message rotated within unity, faith, and service. Pope Francis told the religious that we must have faith like the Uganda matters. We must emulate the Uganda matters in our lives as religious today. And he emphasized on the faith that the Uganda matters had, which up to today, it gives me a feeling that to be a religious, mostly in Uganda here, we must take the Uganda matters as our role model. And that kind of thing was awakened in my mind by actually Pope Francis as a young seminarian. I can say he actively participated in my formation. Just by that time, he was there. And it gave me that deep faith. Pope Francis, to the catechists and the teachers, he said, do not only teach children, but be examples and be witnesses, which he told even to the religious, to the priests and the sisters. And he emphasized of being witnesses, not just preaching, but living an exemplary life. And that is the life indeed Pope Francis lived. He lived example of humility, faith, love, and service. Pope Francis to the youth was so amazing. I was happy when you said the youth are going to have a time of meditation on Pope Francis. And I want to give this little message to the youth. When Pope Francis was here in Uganda, in the talk to the youth, Pope Francis listened to the youth. He gave a listening to ear for the youth to speak. Then finally, do you know what Pope Francis said? He told the youth, dear youth, be agents of love. Turn hatred into love. Turn war into peace. And he said, never let despair to overcome me. Have hope and faith. And now this Pope Francis dies in this year when he has given us a theme of pilgrimage of hope. We are all pilgrims of hope. And you can imagine, just after the resurrection of Christ, Pope Francis died. I'm sure, actually, okay, like the way you said, Pope Francis has been a very humble, silent saint. I trust in the hope, and I want to say, let us all emulate the life of Pope Francis. Amidst all challenges, let's have hope, faith, and let us serve others. As he said to the religious in Uganda, says, be missionaries to wherever you are needed. And I'm happy that I'm a religious priest, and I will truly, together with all our congregation, we are determined to be missionaries. And we also invite the young ones to join us. And to make also it easier, I'm also the vocations animator of our congregation, the vocations director, and let us all come together and be missionaries and pilgrims of hope, like Pope Francis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father. Every new minute is becoming something. In the interest of our viewers, we are continuing on for the purpose of those on YouTube, so that, but soon than later, we shall be ending. You have brought about the message of Pope Francis in Uganda concerning the matters. I want to quote him, one of the famous quotes. Ugandans, get the Ugandan matters out of the museum. Bring them into your lives, out of the museum. The day we do that, Uganda will be a different world. Wow. Possibly thought that our matters, we remember them just only in June. After that, we go into limbo. Come May, end of May, we go back. We get them out of the museum for some few minutes walks. Then return them back. What a great challenge to us. I mean, it means a lot. Now it has had an impact on his call as a religious and as a priest. Further, we are now going into the aspect concerning procedures when the Pope dies. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we shall also be a bit un-African this time round for the interest of the young persons who have never heard about a people election. We rarely talk about succession when even the dead person is still in the deal. But inevitably this time round, don't mind, it's the Holy Spirit at work. Father, what happens exactly when a Pope dies? Oh. What exactly happens when the Pope dies?
So, I guess since we're still in this time of mourning, I would just maybe highlight 4 things that people may be interested in knowing in this time as we get ready, unfortunately, as I said, even get ready to get a new pope, or even when this one is still not yet buried. Well, when a pope dies, there are maybe I mentioned the terms that you hear very much, you will hear very often in the coming days. There's what they call sede vacante. Sede vacante is a Latin term meaning vacant see. Now we're in time of vacant see. Our pope has died. The other day they translated, no, I almost use transfer. They translated the body of the pope to the basilica for public viewing, for paying last respects. And so, according to the rules of the Catholic Church governing this period, when there's this vacant see, when there's, I could say, the sede vacante, it is already, the guiding is that the cardinal who has been chosen, so-called a camelengo, by the way, once the Pope dies, most of these who are leading in the Vatican cease to hold their places except 3. Mm-hmm. So one of them, who is the camelengo, and then the dean of the College of Cardinals, and the major penitentiary. Those never lose their positions, the 3 of them. Mm-hmm. But one of those who is the camelengo, actually the one who is, I suppose in English is called a Chamberlain, who is supposed to be the senior cardinal. He's one then who becomes the formal head of running the affairs in the Vatican or in the Holy See until the new Pope is elected. At the moment, Cardinal Kevin Farrell is the one with the camelengo. His main duty then, he has already done part of it, is to confirm that indeed the Pope is dead and to secure the premises, especially the room of the Pope and his office. And in the past, he would be the one to destroy what they call the fisherman's ring, which is like the stamp of the Pope who has just died. And then this camelengo would carry on the, I could say, the administration of the temporal life of the Holy See. So this is ongoing. So the Pope has been declared dead, and as I said, also his body has been translated into the Basilica for public viewing. Now the cardinals, or what they call the General Congregation of Cardinals, start having meetings and organizing for the burial, which must take place, as we know now in our case, would be on Saturday. And then within 9 days of mourning, which they're going to have, then they start preparing for the election of the new Pope.
Now, Father, since we're talking now about election,
yes,
let's first deal with the death.
Yes, then we shall go there, okay.
To get the successor.
And you are right.
Correct. Since now we are having a vacant see, yeah. we may miss out one of our own who is already here. Sister, you are most welcome. And before I think about a successor, your name and congregation or institute, and Francis, to you, the person, to you, the religious, and to you, the institute. Yes, sister.
Thank you. I'm Reverend Sister Mary Natalie Carroll from the Institute of Little Sisters of Mary Immaculate of Gulu. And I'm a member of this institute, and I've lived with them for many years. And I admire a lot from our Papa. And always we shall repeat ourselves, because whatever he has done, everybody saw it and some lived with it. Like me, as Reverend Sister Natalie, the person, as a person, what I really got from him when he talked about being compassionate leader in the society and towards the needy. And I look at this as a person, because I've been also in some of this leadership as an administrator. He touched me by saying that we must be compassionate. It is true sometimes in work we find difficulties, but when we love, that is when things will move very well. Even the stubborn child, when you love that child,
the child changes. And that's personally what I got from him. And as a religious, he has given us a lot as religious, how to live, because we live a community life. And in a community, we must first love. If I don't love my sister next to me, there is no way that I will go outside there to talk about love. I can only talk about love when I love myself and I love my neighbor as I love myself. And that is the most important thing I got from our Papa. That up to now I'm feeling that pain, but I know God will give us another Papa who will emulate the same quality of our Papa who has now passed on. And as a congregation, for us we are to look at the issue of women, girl child, children. And he has emphasized all this about it. And the most important thing is for us now to put into practice all this quality that he has left with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sister. Sooner than later, it will not be a vacancy. She has filled in an aspect. Compassion as a leader, it's not easy, because there are moments when you have to exercise the authority, but of course prudently, but at the same time with compassion. That's what you call justice has to be covered with charity. Justice has to be done, but with equally charity. Thank you, sister, for sharing with us. We are soon having Sister Lydia back, and we have had that experience. But before we proceed, then we can now talk about the you can continue further with how.
Yes, what follows after we are dealing with what follows after the Pope has died, or we have a vacant seat. So now the time we are in right now, we continue to mourn our father, our Pope. Now what follows is that the Dean of Cardinals was already informed the Camelengo of this, formal about the passing of the Pope, and confirmed. So what will follow now, they are going to call the closed meeting of cardinals. It's called the conclave. Conclave actually is from two words with the key, meaning that they have to go inside a place which they closed, but tradition was this locked. I mean, it's out of bounds. They will be there only the cardinals, and then they have to elect a new pope. At the moment, I think the electorate or the cardinals who qualify to be in this kind of meeting, these who are known as the cardinal electors, I think they are about 135 who fit in that category, because you have to be below 80 to go into this closed meeting to elect the new pope. So we expect that about 135 will be in there to elect the new pope. And if you want, I can even break down these cardinals, where they come from. I know that for us as Africa, we have in there will be at least 18 Africans, 53 Europeans, 20 from North America, and 17 from Latin America, and 4 from Oceania, 23 from Asia. The total number should be about 138. Something interesting, by the way, that should also mention that most of these are being made cardinals by him, by this late Pope Francis. The majority of them actually have been appointed by the late Pope.
Maybe a moment there, Father.
Yes.
You know, when you have gone region, people start thinking about one of the key issues that has been on the social media, WhatsApp, Black Pope, Africa, etc. Ladies and gentlemen and our viewers, take note that when the cardinals are in the conclave, it is the Spirit of the Lord at work. Someone was saying that, imagine through the 2,000 years, we have not had an African Pope. One, that's erroneous. Africa has already granted the Church 3 popes. Pope Saint Victor, Pope Saint Melchiades, and Pope Saint Glacius. They all come from North Africa, because by that time, Black Africa, that's south of the Sahara, had not yet embraced Christianity. No wonder those popes came from North Africa. And these are the countries, Morocco, Tunisia, and Libya. So you can't imagine that Libya gave a pope to the church. You can't imagine Tunisia and it's equally warning to us. By that time, with all due respect, Islam had not yet taken those countries. They are the real Catholic countries, and here we are. They're no longer Catholic. Nonetheless, you don't know where the spirit will prevail. You may find yourself that you are having a black pope. Yes. After all, even Simon of Cyrene came from Africa. So he may be the one, the Simon of Cyrene, to carry the cross after Pope Francis. Father, according to canon law, the letter I read, it states who becomes a pope. And it's simple. It says male, Catholic, baptized. It didn't put priest. It neither put anything. It simply said male, baptized, Catholic, and by implication of good moral. So as I'm seated here in the studio, do I stand a chance of becoming pope? After all, I'm male, baptized,
and a
Catholic, and I feel I'm not all that bad, according to canon law. Is that the case?
You, Mr. Matega, you don't qualify because you left out one other.
Which one?
You have to be a cardinal and below 80. You are, so as I said, the cardinals who are going to go into the conclave have to be below 80, and as I said, they have to be cardinals. By the way, by canon law and up to now, to be a cardinal, you don't have to be even a priest.
Yeah.
So I know that we don't have many left, for example, who are priests, cardinals, or even laity cardinals. If you went by that definition and you were a cardinal, you could stand a chance. But unfortunately, let me tell you another reason why you would not be. To be a pope, you must first of all be a bishop of Rome. This should be clear. After the electing of the cardinal who will be a pope, they in the conclave, before they come out to announce, the first thing they ask him is to accept to be the bishop of Rome, because the pope is actually first and foremost a bishop of Rome as a see, so he's a bishop of a see that presides over the other dioceses. Okay. So I don't think that you'd manage. I think that one condition will disqualify you, because you wouldn't be a bishop of that important see.
For information purposes, the last lay cardinal who was not a priest but was a lay person was in 1850 something, and that was the last case when you had. Nonetheless, somebody outside the conclave has ever been picked as a pope, but was a priest. In actual fact, even I think, if I'm not mistaken, the pope who resigned before Pope Benedict, he was found, he was a monk. He was busy in the gardens working, and he got the news. People came from the conclave in Rome and said, "You have been elected the pope." Poor man, he was lost. He said, "Get serious," but there he was. He accepted, but after some few months, he said, "May the Lord forgive you for what you did," and he resigned. So he was the last pope over 600 plus years who resigned. Nonetheless, maybe the cardinals can be within the conclave and they think that Bishop X somewhere down there, who's not among us, is worthy to be a pope. Don't be surprised. The way the Holy Spirit prevails is totally different. Back to the conclave, Father, now. Send us into the conclave and we shall be elected.
But I hope our audience has understood that to be a pope, you must be to be a pope, you must be at least a bishop. I mean a priest, then a cardinal, because then you are going to be a bishop of a diocese, a very important, I could say, very important diocese of Rome. So when they get in there, then they have to vote. Usually, if it is taking long, they are having 2 ballots in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And what they are looking for is 2/3 of the cardinals in the conclave to vote one person. The person to be a pope will get at least 2/3 of the votes. And now, when that happens, when the session is over, in the Sistine Chapel where they are for electing. Every time the session ends, they are burning the ballots that they used for electing. So when that happens, if the Pope has not been elected, they have not got 2/3, we get, you see black smoke coming out from the chimney. Black smoke. I know, I believe they mix in some chemicals. It's black. So those who will be watching the day when they are going to be having the elections of the new Pope, if you see black smoke, many people will be in St. Peter's Square and on TV, that means the Pope has not been elected. That ballot has not brought 2/3. When eventually 2/3 are gained, then you will see the white smoke coming out of that chimney, and that means the Pope has been elected. And when that happens, as I already mentioned, then they will have to ask the person who has been elected if he accepts to be the Pope. They get him first in, there's a room, it could be like a small chapel or sacristy in that Sistine Chapel called the Sala delle Lacrime. Sala delle Lacrime means the weeping, the room for tears, room of tears. They let him go there to reflect if he's willing to take over that role.
And cry enough.
Yeah, even cry if he has to cry.
It's a room of tears.
Yeah, it's called room of tears. Sala delle Lacrime. Now, the dean of the College of Cardinals comes back to the person who has been elected and asks him if he accepts. Actually, 3 things he has to find out if he accepts. The second thing, the name that he wants to take, to use as a Pope. You know that like Francis was not born Francis, he was Bergoglio. So you have to choose a new name, a name that you're going to take as a Pope. And then the last question, and also very important, if he accepts to be the Bishop of Rome. So if he accepts to be Bishop of Rome, then he automatically becomes Pope. So the new elected pontiff then chooses from the 3 sets of dresses or the vestments that are being prepared for the Pope. Normally they have 3 sets made, different sizes already prepared. So he tries in what fits him. And after that, then he will go to appear on the window of St. Peter's Basilica, where then the one who is the senior cardinal, cardinal deacon, he will pronounce in Latin this famous phrase, habemus papam, which means we have a pope. And then the one who is elected comes to the window, and but before he comes to the window, this cardinal, the senior cardinal, announces the birth name, we call it surname, I don't know what we call family name. Yeah. They mention his first name, and then the name that he has chosen as a pope. And then at that stage, the one who has been elected may come over to that window and greet people. And as we saw last time, those of us who are already mature at that time, then he blesses the people who are there in the square, but all the other people are following all over the world. Basically, that's the process we're waiting for now.
Thank you very much, Father. In the interest of time, actually, I said this could take over 24 hours. We are very grateful to our viewers and listeners. One word within 30 seconds before we conclude. And finally, we shall have the entire group that has been with us in the background for one view. Thank you very much. We shall call you upon. Sister Lydia, one final 1 minute, please.
One final word or statement is to thank God for the gift of Pope Francis. And we thank God for the gift of the Catholic Church. And we are praying that the good Lord may give us a Pope after his own heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Father Fred, one word.
Well, I just could say that for us who are waiting for the funeral of the Pope, we need to pray for Pope Francis, that the Lord will receive him in his resting place, in his heaven, but also to pray for the cardinals who have this great responsibility guided by the Holy Spirit, choose for us a new pastor, a new pope.
Thank you very much, our dear viewers and listeners. I wish to thank all the people who participated in this particular program. Truly, our word is, everybody who looks forward to the words of the gospel. Welcome, faithful servants. Enter into the kingdom of your Father. I look forward to the day I will hear such words. I pray that the Lord gives each one of us faithful servant, faithful steward. It means you must be having very sharp ears, ready to listen to that. Number 2, even popes are humans. They are born out of the very souls we equally share. So we continue praying for our dear Pope Francis. Wherever he might have erred as a person, may the Lord have mercy on his soul. But above all, at least we stay. He has come in the correct time and in the best time. Thank you very much, dear listeners and viewers, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at Lubaka Cathedral for the National Mass, together as laity, religious and priests. And may God protect Mother Church. Thank you very much. I've remained your moderator today evening, Anthony Matega Nachiria, Vice Head of the laity Uganda under UNCCLA, and also a People Night. God bless you. Father, we can't miss your blessing. Give us your blessing.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
May the mighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
UCTV. Good news for all.